So today on the show, I've got Mark Sucrese. He's the head of marketing technology and dealer platforms at the Ford Motor Company. And on the show today, we're going to talk about marketing technology, the data, the decisioning, and the content, and then how AI is changing and evolving that marketing technology stack for the future. That and much more with Mark Sucrese.
Are you ready to go beyond the basics of marketing? I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond, where I chat with the world's leading chief marketing officers and business innovators to share ideas that spark change and inspire you to challenge the status quo. Join us as we explore the future of marketing and its endless potential.
Well, Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, you're great to be here.
I've always had people on the show that somehow have a brush with celebrity. But I think yours is very unique in the fact that you somehow met and hung out for a little while with the Bollywood megastar, Shah Rukh Khan. So
yeah.
Tell me about how that happened.
Yeah, well, I didn't know it was a megastar at the time. So, I was working for my prior company and was on a long work trip there and had an opportunity. I was at breakfast one morning and a gentleman had approached me and he had a fairly big entourage with him at the time. And so I knew it had to be somebody important. And he was asking me why I was there and he gave me his name and said his name was Shah Rukh Khan. And so he was telling me, here's good food to eat for breakfast. And it was a lot of fun. So got to meet him, sat and talked for a little while and had no clue who the guy was. And coincidentally that night it was like a Friday and I had plans to go to a movie, Chuck Day at the time, and he was starring in that movie. So I hadn't even put the two pieces together. And then I had went to the office and I asked everybody like, who's this guy, Shah Rukh Khan? And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I met this guy. And they just went crazy. And so the whole office was going nuts. And I said, well, who is it? And they said, oh, this is like, your version of Tom Cruise. So I was like, okay, great. That was kind of cool to meet somebody. I think that's probably why he was talking to me for so long is because, I didn't know who he was at the time. Yeah. A lot of fun.
It's interesting. Like, they're people just like us, but we like somehow because of the fame and what they do. So he was probably pretty refreshed.
Yeah. And it made the movie more interesting that night too. So I was like, okay, now I know who this guy is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know how you got your start. In your career, you're now the head of marketing technology and dealer platforms at Ford, but like, where'd you get started and how'd you end up at Ford?
Yeah, sure. Wow, what a long road. Okay. So I started in telco long ago in like sales, and service. And, I wasn't very good at it. Didn't like being a salesperson, not very good at it, but, did understand data and how people interact and sort of the human element of, communication styles and things through that process. So that was sort of one of my life-changing events at that time is I had worked with a person that said, you're making good money, but you should probably take a step backwards and you'd be better off in this area. And that area was in marketing. And so I moved into like a data science role, early data science role, that was under the marketing organization and fell in love with doing that work. Wasn't making quite as good money in sales, but it was fun to do something different. And I found that really interesting, the sort of the human connection with the data. Mm-hmm. And so I just sort of stuck with that. And then I moved into high tech. So I moved to Austin, Texas and worked for Dell for 10 years. Did the same thing, worked in software and marketing and had a lot of fun. Met some incredible leaders at Dell. I think Dell probably forged my career where it is today. It was a great experience, great culture. And then I wanted to give the agency side a little try. So I worked for a big agency for quite some time and ran an AI group. And that was a lot of fun. Did that for about a decade. And then I felt like it was time for something new. And I felt like Ford had the right culture, really love where they're going, changing up kind of the automotive space. And they're doing a great job. And so this opportunity came about, and I just felt like it was a good marriage for me to bring kind of the skill sets I had in MarTech and working with people and bringing innovation. And that's where, Ford's sort of headed. So, yeah.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the scope of the role. Like MarTech and dealer platforms. That sounds like a lot of complexity.
It's got some complexity. It's really more about like, we call it like CX and DX. So it's like digital experience, dealer experience and like customer experience. So regardless of where folks are, engaging with that brand, you're either, a consumer that's new to the brand and learning about Ford, or you might be an experienced consumer and working with the dealers. And so regardless of where that's at within a life cycle of a customer, those are the platforms that, myself, my team support, and they're really focused on building connections with Ford. So it's whether it's, better website development or email programs or communication styles, those impact both when you're showing up at the dealer or you're just you've seen advertisement on television, right? They're the same, but they work through different technologies to bring that to life.
Yeah. And so do you, most people I don't know, most people listening to this hopefully know that like the dealers, it's a B2B2C kind of business model, right? Because you've got Ford, the mothership, and you've got the dealers. They're all independent businesses in their own right. And then you have the people like me going to buy a car or a truck. And so it's like, building technology at each of those layers is unique. And I'm sure brings its own unique kind of challenges.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the challenge there is really within the data, because, you think about like customers that may own small or large businesses and they're buying from our Pro division and they're buying Ford vehicles like a Transit or something to that effect, they still might go home and have a Ford F-150, right? So they're still customers in different ways. And so understanding your data and how to communicate with them and recognizing, where they are in that journey, I think is an important part of what we're doing. And Ford's on a mission to create those, really great experiences for those people.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned data, so it leads me to personalization, right? Because you can't really personalize without the data. Like, how are you thinking about personalization now and the data you need to enable it, power it?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So, when I was in Dell years ago, it was, I'd say early 2000s, 2004, 2000, like the idea of the marketers were talking about like one-to-one communications then.
Right.
I mean, here we are 2 decades later and we're still talking about the same thing. But I think for personalization, that sort of reality is here now because there's mass amounts of data. People engage with brands anywhere they want, whether it's social media or traditional marketing, engagement areas like an email campaign or something, right? They're still engaging with us, but they're all over the place and there's no consistent journey. So things like AI play an important role, creating these hyper-personalized experiences. So now the idea of having like a segment of one where a person can be individually treated and communicated to is really where I think that we're headed. And I think that's where personalization is trying to get as close to that one-to-one. So that reality that we were talking about 20 years ago now is real. And I know we tried to get there back then, but I think the best you could do back then was maybe some macro or micro segmentation. Now I think it's a real thing because with the speed of the tech that we have and how fast AI is working and how much data it can consume, we can get a better understanding of each profile.
Yeah. Well, maybe a follow-up to that question is like, so you've got your own data. You probably have to have third-party signals coming in as well. And then, as we talked about that layering of the B to B to C, you've got layers of signals that you've got to aggregate. Any like top level learnings of like how to harness that? I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. I think, I think with the promise of what we have today is overwhelming at times. So I think it's important to get small wins along the way, and show value in that. I think trying not to do maybe too much at once is the right approach. I mean, I think where Ford's doing a great job is, they're really focused in and fine tuning their messages to each consumer. So if we can recognize them as a business owner or a regular consumer, and you can get some small wins along the way on, maybe it's the type of vehicle they might have an interest in, or where they've shown, a vehicle to test drive or something, right? And being able to just focusing on that moment in time and looking for those signals around that moment and focusing on that, I think we get some wins that way. I think over time, I think the idea is to, bring the entire journey into that spectrum. But trying to boil the ocean all at once is challenging. So that's what we tend to do is focus on those micro moments that are impactful.
Yeah. Well, so as a MarTech guy, I'll put you in that bucket for the moment. Okay. All right. So we've got data. We know what we want to do to try to get to one-to-one personalization, but you've got to decision it at some level. And it feels like every company I talk to does it very different. They have their own unique ways, and sometimes they're outside decisioning models that are feeding into the system. Sure. Sometimes the decisioning is happening inside of whatever the tech stack is that you're working on. Yeah. How do you think about like the decisioning that has to happen around all that?
I mean, it's actually one of the three key pillars that we're really focused on. And to your point, like if you put the bookends, I'd say the bookends are data and content. So, content has to be curated, created, designed, and developed in a very molecular way, the same way you're looking at your data. You're looking at data in a molecular way. So once you have that, then having an appropriate decision engine. So big software companies are trying to tightly couple that into their platforms and using them more often. Where I've seen really great examples of this is where that is somewhat of an abstract layer, to do exactly what you talked about earlier. Like, how do you understand these little moments when they're either shopping or browsing or buying, and having that decision engine, be able to siphon through data, find the appropriate message or content or communication, and then give it out and serve it at the right appropriate time. So I've seen both. I've seen tightly coupled packaged solutions and sort of standalone. I'm sort of leaning more towards the standalone side. I think it allows me to, help within things like maybe you're at the site of the dealer, or maybe you're in a call center. It doesn't always have to focus on the digital element of it. So,
right. More customization potential.
Exactly. And the modeling that you referred to allows some flexibility there. You want out of the box stuff because you want to go to the market fast, but being able to tap into how quickly AI is moving today and tap into all these models that are out there and the ability to use some of that is a great way to go. And a lot of those tightly coupled systems don't allow for that. So having something that's more abstract is sort of the approach. Yeah.
Well, building on what you said, you got data, the content, you have decisioning is like this middle layer. Let's throw AI and agentic on top. Like, is it an accelerant? Like, how do you think about it integrating into that entire ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, happy to say I was like coming to Ford. I was very pleased like how far they're along there. They've got a very good an AI development team, and they're doing a heck of a job. And I'm excited to tap into all that work that's gone on. I think Ford, like every other company, is still new, and we're very cautious on how we take our steps forward because as you've clearly seen, probably all the cybersecurity risks that are out there and privacy laws and everything. So we're just making sure that how it gets used is appropriate for our business. But again, we're focused on building those customer relations. So they're going to play a role in it. Agentic's going to play a role in automation and creating effectiveness in our engineering teams, creating those hyper personalized experiences and learning from that. Right. But I think we'll be taking cautionary steps along the way.
Very measured approach. Yeah. Do you see it helping you more initially on the kind of back end, if you will, versus say customer facing, or or does that matter?
Yeah, it does matter. But I mean, it's a good question. I think going back to my earlier comment about like trying to get small wins, and taking some steps along the way. We're doing that in how we roll out sort of those AI things. So you'll see some, you'll probably see things on like, Ford.com, where you can communicate with like chatbots and things. But I run an engineering group. So, we're using it to help improve efficiencies in that and streamlining code development. And I think we're seeing it on both sides. It's easier to test and learn though on like sort of back office and do experimental work there before you ever take anything out to the public. Right. So there is more work probably going on there, but you'll see it on both sides. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, given your vantage point and not necessarily at Ford, but as you think about automotive in general, like where do you see the technology for the automotive industry going and how it, what the vision might look like in the future?
Yeah, I think, well, as a automotive fan, I'll just say, I think in general, like you see in all automotive industries, like, you see a lot of the in-vehicle type activities going on, and a lot of self-driving vehicles, and so I still think we're like all companies are progressively moving into that space. But I think where you'll see a lot of companies using this type of tech, and there's probably things around product development, being able to move product into a production environment in a quicker way than maybe they were before, rapid content development and testing. So, and we see that in the engineering space too. Like you can move through code development more rapidly. And I think that's where I probably see all that. It's just really sort of time to market, creating efficiencies, sort of that fail fast approach to things. I think is where they'll be able to, you think about the automotive industry in general. It's sort of 100-year business over hundreds of years in the making in our country. And so there's a lot of change that can happen in that space. So yeah.
No, it's good. And it's vital to how this economy runs, to be honest. So, well, one of the things we like to do on the show is also get to know you a little bit better. My favorite question to ask folks is, has there been a experience of your past that defines or makes up who you are today?
That's a interesting question. I had given this some thought. I had early on, the one experience that I had was I had a colleague that I mentioned earlier tell me that you're better off and suited for a different role, and you should look at moving out of the sales environment. And I just felt like that was a hard thing to hear from somebody, especially when they're a friend, that like maybe you're not best suited for that role. But in the end, here we are 20 years later, and
worked out pretty well.
Worked out pretty well. So yeah, I think I would say that was like a key moment in my life to change my career. So, and that I still great friends with that person. So, I would say that was probably the catalyst to where I'm at today. Yeah. From that.
Well, if you were starting your career all over again, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say, I mentioned the term fast fail earlier, but I'd probably apply that to myself. I think my younger self always felt like I had these great ideas, and I think I held on to them too long, and would try to, whether they were working or not, those ideas, I would try to continue to push them until somebody believed that there was was a good idea. And I think it's important now to learn that it's okay to not have everything perfect, and that fast fail approach, right? Okay, it's not working. Let's move on to something else, and don't hang on to that stuff too long. And that's worked out far better for me in my career. As my older self, I'd probably say that was probably a better. I'd probably go back and teach myself that I held on to things way too long. Yeah.
Well, is there anything you're trying to learn more about right now, or you think marketers should be learning more about?
I think in general, marketers are really, they're very technical these days. I mean, if you're not a marketer that's like investigating in tech, you're probably somewhat outdated. Like you really need to consider how, even creative agencies, I came from a creative agency, and it's where art meets science now. That science piece has to be well adopted into that creative world. So I think marketers have to take a tech approach to stuff. And I think that's something that I try to foster here, is that blend of art and science and working with the business. That's why I really was excited to come to this new position, is bringing that concept forward and working closely with the business and trying to mesh, that world of art and science. So, yeah.
Are there any trends or subcultures that you're taking notice of, or you're just curious about?
Yeah, I mean, I love all the excitement around AI within the engineering world. So I don't know if I'd call it a subculture these days anymore because it's out there, but it's kind of fun to explore the possibility that's out there. There's at every turn there's new things that we can do and create those efficiencies, and so I'm pretty excited about that. On a more personal note, I'd say there's a off-roading subculture that I love, the sort of overlanding communities and stuff. And so I think that married well coming over to the Ford brand. I mean, the Bronco's incredible. So, love the idea of that. So looking forward to marrying that little personal world with my professional life now and tapping into that subculture too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, last question. Yeah. As you think about going into the future, what do you think is either the biggest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
marketers stay relevant and they hone their craft using AI, then it becomes a more effective tool for running their day to day and don't become irrelevant. So I think that's a threat, but it's also a promise too that they could do a heck of a lot more with well adoption. So I think that covers sort of for me the opportunity and the threat. Like there's an opportunity in there if you're an adopter of it, but yeah, it could become a threat if you're not.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Mark, thanks for coming on the show.
That was great. Awesome. Appreciate it.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Beyond is a Deloitte digital podcast. It's created and hosted by me, Alan Hart, and produced by Sam Robertson. We have even more cutting-edge marketing insights headed your way. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with our latest episodes. I love hearing from listeners. Share your thoughts about the episode, the topic covered, or the show by commenting on this video or emailing me at marketingbeyond@deloitte.com. If you're interested in more conversations with industry visionaries, we invite you to explore other Deloitte Digital podcasts at deloittedigital.com/US/podcast. There you'll find the Marketing Beyond webpage with complete show notes and links to what we discussed in the episode today. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Beyond. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Deloitte. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only and does not imply endorsement or opposition to any specific company, product, or service.